All right, now I want to backtrack. So we've seen the larger picture that God's call upon Abraham as they depart from the land. We're going to go back to chapter 12 and verse 1, where God speaks to Abram. So Vayomer Adonai El Avram, excuse me. Again, this preterite form, the Vav consecutive plus the imperfect. God spoke. Yahweh spoke. What did he say to Abraham? Lech lecha. Again, lech is the Cal imperative form from halak. Again, those verbs you remember that begin with hey. Most often in the imperative form, we'll lose that hey, particularly halak. One of the things you find in the most variations, and this happens in all languages, it happens in English. Explain go, went, gone, to somebody of a different language group. But halak, a very, very common word, will lose its hey in this imperative form. Go from your land, me atzaka, and memoledeka, from your family members, those of the begotten world of now the household of your father. So the Mamoledeka is from your family members, from your land, from your larger family group, and then more specifically, as it goes from broad to narrow, which is another very typical Hebraic style. From your homeland, from your larger family group, from the household of your father. So again, going from the Terah family group, and he says, what? To Haaretz Asher Aracha, to the land which, again, this form Aracha, built off the verb Ra'ah, is a Hifil imperfect. Hifil imperfect, one CS, from Ra'ah. Ra'ah is to see. In the Hifil, we take this positive sense as very real. That which I will cause you to see, I will enable you to see, or as we would often translate it, that I will show with that second person singular suffix that I will show you. So you're to go out, you yourself, lacha, lech lacha. We're going to see that a couple of times in the Abraham narrative, in particular later on in chapter 22. So go from, again, this world, your homeland, your family group, your father's household, your patriarchal clan group, to a land which I will show you. So this is a break from your tradition. And he says, if you do that, I will again make you L'goyim Gadol. The, again, perfect form, Asa, the imperfect form of Asa, the first person singular, I will make, here with the pronominal suffix functioning as the indirect object, I will make you into, now the Lamed precedes, which is one of the functions of the Lamed, is to introduce the direct object. I will make you into a great nation. A nation great. So I'm going to take you out of the international world of Mesopotamia in order to fashion a new, greater nation. It will never be the nation that is great like the great worldwide kingdoms of Assyria and Babylonia, but it will be a nation with a greater consequence wrought by God's miraculous handiwork through Abram and Sarah. So he says, I will make a great nation of you. Now I will bless you. So he says, and I will bless you. So now we have that Bob plus the imperfect from Barak, first person singular, in again this form Avareka, which is a PL. Again, the indication of a PL, which in this case, of course, with the resh being the middle letter of the root, is not going to take a dagesh as a laryngeal type of consonant. Instead, you'll back up and get the lengthening of the vowel. So the PL imperfect typical vowel sequence is to have a shawa, in this case compound shawa, under the prefix. The first letter of the root will have an A class vowel, and then followed by an I or E class vowel under the second letter of the root. And so this is a classic form based upon the verb barak, which occurs more often. It can occur in the cow, but often the context of the intent of a person to pronounce or to bring blessing upon another person is used in the PL. Barak in the cow can mean to bless in a perhaps lesser sense. It also comes from the original word meaning to bend the knee. But it's upon one who has bent the knee before a superior that PL blessing is pronounced. And then he says, I will make great your name. So he said before, I will make you into a great nation, and I will make your name great. Again, the concept, as we read from Walkie a few minutes ago, God's intent to bring a blessing upon Abraham. And the way that he will do that will be making Abraham's name great. Again, a great name for an individual is one who has followed faithfully God's call and exemplified faith in the doing of God's calling upon. And then we have the simple imperative, be a blessing. So, stage one, I will make a great nation of you. I will bless you. I will make your name great. Therefore, be in all that can be accomplished, all that can be described, be a blessing. Bring fullness of life, hope, fulfillment, and prosperity in the broader sense of the term upon that person that would follow faithfully. A great name to receive great blessing. And then finally, verse 3, the continued blessing, where he says, I will indeed bless those who bless you. Here again, repeating with the cohortative form, with that comet's hay on the end, that I will bless. So this is the PL imperfect one common singular with the cohortative end. I will indeed bless. Then we have the PL participle form of Barak, ones or those blessing you, with the second masculine singular pronominal suffix. So I will bless those who bless you. And again, this will play out in the life of Abraham, sometimes in spite of Abraham's efforts or Abraham's failure to fully exemplify righteousness. We'll do that several times. God will bring blessing in spite of him, but God will bring blessing upon him, as he will do, for example, through Melchizedek. Then comes the opposite. A couple very interesting forms, uses the same word for blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Now he says, U makal laka aur. excuse me, I will bring contempt, or I will, excuse me, of those who bring contempt upon you, I will curse. You know, I'll backwards here today. And by the way, this is what I call a micro-chiastic structure. So you have your PL participles in the middle, next to one another. Those who bless you, those who bring contempt upon you, or bring derision. It's often translated curse, but they're not exactly the same concept. Halal would mean to bring defamation, contempt upon, whereas the aur has to do with cursing, like the curse that was put upon the serpent in the garden. Same verb is used. The curse upon the ground that we'll read about later on. So he says, I will indeed bring blessing upon those who bless you, and upon those who bring contempt or defamation to you, I will bring a curse. And the hour is to pronounce a curse which has lasting effects upon. God says, I will bring a lasting curse upon those who try to bring contempt upon the family of my blessing. And then the ultimate goal of this entire passage. The goal is not to curse the nations. The goal is to bless the nations. So he says in the end of verse 3, with, again, this imperfect form, now in plural, nifal form, they will be blessed in you. Who? Now the subject. So it highlights by bringing, again, these collection of verb forms, and how many times the verb forms are at the beginning. Just a couple of times they are sequential in the end, but in each line he says, again, speaking of God's intent in this whole process, that through God's work in the life of Abraham, the family that would follow through the generations, God's ultimate purpose was to bring blessing upon all the mishpachot, all of the families of Ha'adamah, all the families of the, in this case, Adamah is the ground. Often just translate all the families of the earth. But this is, again, this echoes back to the curse upon the ground in Genesis chapter 3 after the fall. God's ultimate purpose was not, in the end, to bring judgment on the earth in his final glory, though judgment will be brought to the unrepentant. God's ultimate purpose through this family was to bring blessing through that family upon all the families of this earth, this world that is accursed, until the ultimate end of God's purposes in the eschaton. So again, the idea of God's purpose in this whole call of Abraham is to bring blessing. 5 times blessing is emphasized. Only once the aspect of cursing and judgment. But making a great nation, making a great name will bring blessing. So the reciprocal work of God calling Abraham, blessing Abraham, would be God's way of bringing blessing upon all of humanity, all of the mishpachot, all of the families of this earth in its accursed state. That's the ultimate purpose of God in the call of this family as they journeyed forth from Ur of the Chaldees to the land of Haran, in Upper Mesopotamia, and finally to the land of Canaan, place of God's ultimate purpose that will be brought forth in this crowning work of blessing of history in the nations of the earth through the Christ event. Have a good week.